Alright guys, welcome back to another episode Up and Running. Alright, on today's episode, one of the things we have to do is change the oil on the Super Bee. So let's go for that and get it done. First thing is, let's take a look at the air cleaner on this car. It's been a while since we put one of these on. I'm sure it's kind of nasty. It is. Driving up and down the dusty road here makes that kind of crusty. Alright, we got a new one. I anticipated that. Alright, now let's get after the oil. Alright, I can never remember what size this is. There we go. It's a 7/8. Ugh, a little more. Alright, I'm going to get the old grease gun out and grease this while things are dripping. I wiped a lot of these off while I was standing here off camera. But you definitely want to wipe them all off when you're doing this. Alright. Now the filter in this car is right up in here, and I lost my oil filter wrench. Here it is. Every year I gotta kind of remember how I did it the year before. And I'll let that drain a bit and then we'll remember. I think I go up through there. Push the radiator hose out of the way. You can only get one hand in there and it's super slippery. There it is. And we got it. Alright, we got a brand new Wix filter. Let me show you guys something up in there to make sure to pay attention to. So there's the oil filter housing. You want to make sure that the gasket from the old filter is not on that, and because that's bad if you double gasket that. So I always am sure to check that. Then I also get a little oil and freshly lube this gasket on the new filter as well. And let's shove it back up through here. Make sure we didn't pick up a lot of junk on it, and we'll screw it on. Alright, there it is, tucked up in there. And then we'll make sure that it's screwed on all the way. And we didn't bind up the threads. There's not a lot. Yeah, it feels good on there. Also, when I start it, I'll be sure to check that right away because I don't want any issues with it. All right, as long as we got the car up in the air, I'm going to talk a little bit about torsion bar suspension. So I'm going to start at the back of the car, or at the back of the suspension. This right here is the back end of the front torsion bar. And what a torsion bar is it's this bar that runs right along here, and that takes a twisting motion from the front end. And you can see it, I'll get the camera up in there. It mounts into the front suspension, the lower control arm, right up there, right there. And there's a hex on both ends. The back hex is held stationary, and then as this control arm goes up and down, the front twists this bar. Well, there's a preload twist on that bar that keeps your car from sitting flat, and it's done by when you put the front suspension on this car. All right, so that's where the front of the torsion bar mounts into the car. Now, if you look up under here, there's a bolt, and that's what tightens the torsion bar. You can't really see it that well, but you can kind of see the bolt through that hole right up there. And the more you crank that bolt in, the tighter or the more twist or preload is put on that torsion bar, and that makes the front end of the car higher. So if you ever watch like old Dukes of Hazzard and they're getting ready to do a jump, they used to run these bolts in all the way to get the car in as high as they possibly could in the front. It made for a better jump. So that's how they did it. So if you're thinking, I've never seen that before, were Dodges the only one that used that? The answer is absolutely not. Even up into the 2000s, some of the Ford and Chevy pickups used torsion bar suspension. You can see this one is kind of a little bit on the smaller side as far as the diameter. Let me walk over and I'll grab one out of a Ford truck. I think it was like an 01 or something like that, Ford truck, four-wheel drive. Let's go take a look at that one. So anyway, here is a piece of torsion bar out of a Ford truck. You can see how much bigger it is, compared to the one in the car. There was a lot more weight in them. But anyway, so that gives you an idea, the little 5-minute education on what torsion bar suspension is all about. On the way down. High pour. Woo! About this time I always go, did I put the drain plug back in? Am I just pouring this on the floor? I wonder if they started putting metal shavings in this stuff now. Just kidding. So it was super awesome. They put the dipstick tube right down there. And the awesome thing is when you pull it out, it goes right by the positive battery cable. So if you're really lucky, you can weld the dipstick into the tube when you hit the positive battery cable. All right, let's start this up and see if we have oil pressure. Rest of the oil out. Let's see if it lights. oil pressure. Now let's check the oil. What I do with the dipstick, here it is. Yeah, so we're right between the lower and upper marks on the dipstick, which should be good because it'll drain back down into the engine and we'll top it off. I usually double check it like the next day after it had a chance to sit all night. So I think we're done with the oil change. I run a full service oil change plate here. We're going to get the vacuum too. Who puts all this stuff in the car anyway? That's what I want to know. It seems like no matter what, it's in here. It'll probably all be back by the time I get home. Alright guys, what do you say we check out some viewers' rides today? Alright guys, that's going to wrap it up for another episode Up and Running. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to come back next time. And what a torsion bar is this. Yeah, so anyway, I have no idea where I'm going with that, but anyway, that's a little lesson on torsion bar suspension. Alright guys, that's going to wrap it up for